This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com. But another guy that we covered very early on is Brian Pillman. And in this era, he's probably regarded as being the hottest free agent in wrestling at the time. He's not only being sought after by you guys, but WCW is attempting to re-sign him, which, boy, that's a comedy of errors. He's actually spent some time in ECW that I'm sure a lot of people remember. But the real news is he's in a horrible auto accident. He's thrown 40 feet out of his Humvee on April 15th, and he's hospitalized in Cincinnati, and he's in a bad way. When this is all happening, what are you thinking about? Because at this point, you knew Brian Pillman. You had met him before, right?
Yeah. No, we'd already negotiated with Brian by this point.
But you hadn't actually worked with him at this point, right? I
had never actually worked with Brian at this point, no. I'd met Brian on several occasions, and we had talked, done some business at this point, talking about him coming in, but hadn't worked with him yet, no.
Let me ask, when you work with a new guy like that, do you maybe call up some of your old pals? Like, would you call Dusty and say, hey man, what can you tell me about Brian? Or do you play everything sort of close to the vest instead?
No, I think that Brian had enough people around that were singing his praises. And there were a lot of people that were very high on Brian as far as, an athlete and a human being. So, it wasn't, the loose cannon gimmick was a gimmick.
Right.
And Brian worked that gimmick in and out of the ring. But I don't know that I ever experienced Brian being crazy and too hard to handle and being a real life loose cannon.
Wait, hang on. I want to follow up on something there. Are you saying that Brian, even in his meeting with Vince, was working the loose cannon gimmick or not? Is that not the case?
No. I'm saying that to the boys he would.
Right. But I mean, he's not sitting down in Vince's office and being a goof. Okay. When the Humvee accident happens, you guys still move forward with the offer. But this is happening at a time where, Razor wants a raise. He's not getting one. But Brian Pillman is coming in for a decent sized contract, and we're not even sure that he's going to be able to wrestle. Or had you guys sort of convinced yourself, oh, he's going to be okay? Or did Vince just think, well, this is the right thing to do and he's worth it?
Define decent sized contract, and who said Brian Pillman was coming in for anything more than what other people were already making?
Well, I don't know what everybody else is.
That's rumor and innuendo. Now, his agent was out there telling everybody that would listen.
I say,
trying to get WCW to bump up their price. Sure, they were negotiating. But I could tell you that it wasn't extraordinary what Brian was making coming in. He had a downside guarantee like other people did.
What's the concern? I mean, obviously there's a million different ways you could go with this just in your head. But when you see a guy have a serious accident like this, and I mean, it's just natural to have concerns, right? About how will he recover from this? Will he be able to return to his old form? I mean, he was known before this as Flying Brian Pillman, and what's that going to look like now, right?
Well, I don't think anybody was interested in Flying Brian at this point anyway. The interesting character was the loose cannon character, yes, and this unpredictable, outrageous Brian Pillman, and nobody was looking for I hate to say boring, but Flying Brian didn't have a lot of personality.
Right.
Loose cannon, unpredictable Brian Pillman sure as hell did. So, I think that you're looking at, okay, how can we utilize his talents? And you can utilize his talents with his mouth and his personality. He doesn't need to be Flying Brian anymore. That was just people out in San Francisco, California that really like that.
Let's move on. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.